Before the world knew wisdom, there was silence. Not the silence of emptiness, nor the silence of death, but a vast, ancient stillness. A quiet that waited, like a breath held by the cosmos itself. In those early days, the heavens were young. Mount Olympus stood not as a symbol of power, but as a newborn throne carved out of storm and light. The skies rolled in endless shades of blue and silver, as if the very air were searching for meaning. And high above, where clouds gathered like wandering spirits, Zeus, king of the gods, ruled over creation. With thunder in his hands and lightning in his veins. He was mighty. He was glorious. He was feared. But even a king could not escape destiny. For there existed a prophecy, old as the first whisper of wind, older even than the fire that danced in the heart of every star. It spoke of Metis, the goddess of wisdom, deep thought, and cunning insight. She was not loud like thunder, nor fierce like storms. Her power was quiet, subtle, sharp. Metis was the mind behind every strategy, the voice behind every clever thought, the calm in every raging sea. And Zeus admired her. He admired the way she saw what others could not, how she predicted the future not through magic, but through understanding. She was his counselor, his companion, his first love. But the prophecy changed everything. The oracles had spoken clearly. Metis would bear Zeus a daughter of incomparable wisdom, a child greater than her father. And then, she would bear a son destined to overthrow Zeus. As Zeus had once overthrown Cronus, and as Cronus had overthrown Uranus before him. It was a cycle as old as the cosmos, a father rising, and a son destined to cast him down. Zeus, who had broken his own father's tyranny, felt the old terror return. The same terror Cronus had felt when he swallowed his own children to keep his throne. But Zeus was not Cronus. He was not a mindless tyrant. His fear was quiet, calculated, desperate. He loved Metis, and yet, he feared the fate she carried within her. One evening, as the sun sank behind the edge of the world, and the first stars blinked awake like distant watchful eyes, Metis approached Zeus. Her presence was gentle, like the moment before a thought forms, a soft awareness rather than a sound. Zeus looked at her, feeling both longing and dread. Metis spoke of strategy, of the wars to come, of the choices that would shape Olympus for eternity. Her words flowed like water, clear, calm, unbroken. Zeus listened, but inside his mind, the prophecy echoed, like a cold, invisible chain tightening around his heart. And in that moment of fear, he made a decision, one that would change the universe forever. Zeus reached out to her. Metis welcomed his touch, trusting the god she had guided for so long. But in the smallest fraction of a second, in a sliver of time thinner than a strand of hair, Zeus acted. He whispered a spell taught to him by ancient earth spirits. And before Metis could move, before she could even understand the betrayal, she began to dissolve. Her form shimmered, then faded like mist touched by sunlight. She became a stream of pure thought, a ribbon of golden light, drawn into the mouth of Zeus, and swallowed into his being. The world did not shake. The heavens did not scream. Only a faint, almost inaudible sigh rippled across the sky, the sigh of a goddess becoming a whisper inside a god. Zeus stood alone. His heart trembled with triumph and guilt. He had ended the prophecy, or so he believed. But he did not realize that Metis was not gone. She was alive within him. She flowed through his mind like a quiet river, settling into the corners of his thoughts, illuminating the chambers of his consciousness. And deep inside Zeus, Metis began to grow. Her wisdom pulsed softly, like a tiny spark in the darkness, a spark that would soon burst into a blaze of divine power. At first, Zeus felt nothing. But as days passed, small whispers curled through his mind. Whispers not of madness, but of thought. Keywords, symbols, Ideas he had never known before. Images of things not yet created. Cities, philosophies, inventions. The hearts of heroes unborn. Metis was thinking, and her thoughts were becoming seeds of something new. Something powerful. Something divine. A child. Not born of flesh, but born of pure mind. This child stirred inside Zeus's head, like a sun rising behind a wall of clouds. At first, she was light. Then she became warmth. Then, pressure. A pressure that throbbed behind Zeus's eyes, like a drumbeat echoing through the heavens. He pressed his palm against his forehead, closing his eyes tightly, trying to silence the growing pulse. But it only grew stronger. It grew louder. It grew brighter. A presence. A consciousness. Expanding within him, like a star trying to burst free of its shell. Zeus had swallowed Metis to prevent his downfall. But what formed inside him was beyond his control. He felt her now. Not Metis, but the child. A being of clarity and brilliance, taking shape in the shadows of his thoughts. Wisdom was taking form, and the universe held its breath. Thus began the quiet storm, the storm that would one day split open the mind of the king of gods, and give birth to Athena. As the days passed, Zeus's discomfort grew into a torment he could no longer conceal. The gods of Olympus watched him from a distance, confused and uneasy, for never before had they seen their king bend beneath invisible weight. To the others, Zeus still stood proud and tall, his voice booming like thunder, his gaze commanding the mountains and the seas. But behind the golden fire of his eyes, a storm gathered, silent, relentless, unavoidable. It began as a soft ache, a pressure behind his temples, like a distant hammer tapping at the edge of his skull. Once, twice, again and again. Then the tapping became pounding. The pounding became throbbing, and the throbbing grew into a burning force that seemed to shake the very heavens. Zeus tried to bear it alone. He was king. He was immortal. Pain was beneath him. But this pain, this was the pain of creation, a divine labor born from thought instead of flesh. Each time he tried to quiet his mind, the presence within him flared, sending bright streaks of agony across his vision. Sometimes he stumbled. Sometimes he gasped. Sometimes the skies darkened unintentionally, responding to the chaos boiling within their master. The other gods began to whisper, "Is Zeus ill? Is a curse upon him? Is an ancient prophecy rising again?" But none dared ask him directly. Only Hera watched him with sharp, calculating eyes. She sensed something was wrong, something deeper than a simple affliction. But Zeus offered her nothing. He kept his pain close, for he knew the truth within him was beyond jealousy, beyond marriage, beyond betrayal. This was destiny at work. Inside Zeus's mind, something extraordinary unfolded. The child, the one Metis had begun, was no longer a spark. She was a flame, a radiant being, shaped not by womb or water, but by pure divine thought. She grew rapidly, her essence forming armor, her presence surrounded by shimmering brilliance. She pressed against the walls of Zeus's mind, seeking space, seeking form, seeking life. And Zeus felt her. He felt her every movement, every pulse, every shimmer of consciousness. It was as though a second mind lived inside his own, not threatening, not hostile, but powerful. So powerful that even Zeus, king of gods, struggled to contain her. He would awaken gasping, as if lightning had burst inside his skull. He would grip the marble pillars of Olympus to steady himself, when sudden flashes of pain blinded him without warning. And always, behind the pain, there was a whisper, soft, familiar, intelligent. Not Metis, but something born from her. A new voice, a new mind. Zeus wanted to believe he had ended the prophecy, but deep within him, he knew the truth. Wisdom could not be swallowed. Wisdom could not be contained. Wisdom demanded to be born. As the presence grew stronger, The world itself began to change. Clouds gathered more frequently, dark and heavy. Storms erupted without Zeus's command. Lightning flashed even when his hands were still. Mortals feared these unpredictable tempests, believing Zeus was angry, or restless, or preparing for war. But the other gods knew better. They felt the tremors in the air, the shift in divine energy, the tension tightening around Olympus like a great bowstring. One evening, as twilight melted into night, and the moon rose pale and watchful, the pain within Zeus exploded. It struck him like a hammer of pure light, a sharp, blinding surge that forced him to his knees. A cry tore from his throat, echoing across the heavens. The mountains trembled. The oceans quivered. Even the stars flickered, as if startled by the sound of a god in agony. The gods rushed to him at last. Hera, trembling with fear. Apollo, radiant but confused. Artemis, silent and tense. Ars, gripping his spear, unsure of the enemy he could not see. Zeus, they called. What torments you? What curse has fallen upon the king? But Zeus could not answer. His hands pressed tightly against his head. His eyes squeezed shut. Light bursting from the corners like molten gold. Inside him, the presence had grown too vast. Too bright. Too powerful to be contained another moment. She pushed outward. Not out of rage, but out of destiny. She was ready. She was meant to be born. And Zeus could not stop her. In his desperation, in the unbearable agony that shook his immortal bones, Zeus called out in a voice broken by pain, "Hephaestus, come now." The gods turned as Hephaestus, the divine smith, the master of fire and metal, limped toward them with steady purpose. He looked upon Zeus, and instantly understood. This was not an illness. This was not a curse. This was an emergence. Hephaestus lifted his shining axe, a tool forged in the heart of volcanoes, quenched in starlight, tempered with divine fire. Zeus gave a single, desperate nod. The gods gasped, and Hephaestus raised the axe high. The world froze. All creation held itself still. Not a wind stirred. Not a leaf moved. Not a single echo dared to exist. And then, Hephaestus brought the axe down, in one perfect, powerful, precise strike, upon the head of Zeus. But Zeus did not fall. He did not bleed. For gods do not bleed like mortals. Instead, the heavens split open. A burst of blinding white golden light shot upward from Zeus's skull, rushing into the sky, painting the clouds with the glow of newborn divinity. The force of it sent the gods scrambling backward. The mountains shook. Lightning spiraled outward in rings of pure radiance. And from that rift, from the thunderous crack between thought and reality, something stepped forward. Someone. She emerged fully formed, towering, brilliant, serene. A goddess clad in shimmering armor, her shield gleaming like the sun, her spear as steady as truth, her eyes glowing with the calm depth of endless wisdom. Her face held no pain, no fear, no confusion, only clarity, only strength, only purpose. This was the child Metis had nurtured in silence. This was the being Zeus had unknowingly carried. This was the mind made divine. This was Athena. Athena stood upon the summit of Olympus, as though she had always belonged there, a goddess not born of flesh, but sculpted from the pure brilliance of thought. Her armor shimmered like liquid gold, smooth and radiant, yet bearing no mark of battle. Her shield glowed with the promise of protection, not destruction. Her spear rested lightly in her grasp, as though even weapons bowed to her wisdom. And her eyes held the clarity of dawn breaking over a silent world. Calm, sharp, eternal. The gods stared in awe. None had witnessed a birth like this. None had imagined that divinity could emerge. Not from womb or water, but from the mind of a god. It was Hera who stepped forward first. Her voice trembled, not with fear, but with wonder. "Athena, she whispered, as if naming something sacred. Athena turned her gaze toward her, and in that gaze Hera felt something astonishing. Respect. Calm. Understanding. There was no arrogance in Athena's posture. No wildness. No confusion of a newborn. She stood with the confidence of a warrior, and the serenity of a sage. Zeus slowly rose to his feet. The pain was gone. The torment had ended. Where agony had once raged, a strange peace now settled. A peace shaped by the presence of the daughter he did not expect, yet instantly cherished. Athena looked upon her father, and Zeus saw in her every quality he admired in Metis. Clarity, strength, foresight, wisdom, magnified into something even greater. He spoke her name, his voice trembling with relief and awe. Athena. She bowed her head not in submission, but in acknowledgement. A greeting between two minds that understood each other beyond words. And if this story of divine birth and ancient wisdom touched your heart, if the calm strength of Athena spoke to you tonight, then I invite you to walk a little further into the world of myths with me. Please like this video so more seekers of stories can find it. Share it with someone who loves the beauty of ancient legends. And if you wish to journey deeper into the realms of gods and forgotten tales, subscribe to Divinity Decoded. Your support helps these myths continue to live, to breathe, and to illuminate the world, just as Athena's wisdom once illuminated Olympus. Thank you for being here. Until we meet again, may wisdom walk beside you.